Ethics assignment, two tasks. There's an essay of 1,500 words and a patient charter of 800 words. Basically, in the essay, what you do is you evaluate at least one medical practice that promotes controversial debate. So obviously that could be abortion, euthanasia, save your siblings, organ donation, whatever. And the key thing is that you're going to apply the moral philosophies and the moral principles to that issue. Then the second task is a patient charter. It doesn't have to be presented in a particular way, in which you discuss 3 rights and 3 responsibilities and link those to either or the moral philosophies or the moral principles. And I'll explain that a little bit further in a second. So what I'll do is I'll just briefly go through the criteria, and I'll just give you a couple of examples, and I'll go back to that plan that I posted on Teams last week. There's also a video if you haven't checked it out. Okay. So the criteria. Most of the time with the criteria for an assignment, the most obvious way to do it is to go in order. Just literally go in order. Someone messaged me this morning and was saying, don't the criteria overlap? Well, yeah, they do, but you can still do them separately if you want to, if that makes it more clear. So 1.1 is outline the main propositions of a range of moral theories, e.g. consequentialism, utilitarianism, deontology, postmodern ethics. So what you do first of all is you actually describe those 4 theories. So the main propositions, that's what it means. So, utilitarianism, Jeremy Bentham thought that we should do good by promoting the greatest good for the greatest number. Deontology is about duty. Postmodern ethics is about relativism. The key thing is, obviously, in any assignment, what you want to do is you want to bring in as much detail as possible, use additional key concepts, do research and things like that to back up what you're saying. Then 1.2, apply theories of moral philosophy to the provision of healthcare. So what that means is you are applying those 4 theories, consequentialism, utilitarianism, etc., to an issue. Okay, so obviously your issue might be abortion, euthanasia, whatever it is. What most people do when they're describing the philosophies in their intro is give a little example after each one. So for example, when you describe utilitarianism, you could say one thing that often uses utilitarian principles is vaccinations, because that's about the greatest number of people being protected against the disease. And obviously, unfortunately, some people have negative reactions to the vaccinations and things like that. 2.1, evaluate examples of medical issues which promote controversial debate, e.g. organ transplant, euthanasia, informed consent. So that's asking you to discuss your issue. So obviously when you first talk about your issue, you'll be talking about it in general as an issue. So for example, abortion, you probably know that there are 2 main camps in the abortion debate. There's pro-life and pro-choice. One of the issues with abortion is, when does life begin? Does it begin at conception or does it begin at birth? Obviously, religion comes into abortion because, in the Bible it says certain things that implies that abortion is wrong, and often religious people are against abortion. So you will be discussing the issue in a bit of detail before you start bringing in the philosophies. And again, when you do bring in the philosophies, you'll find loads of stuff online about deontology, utilitarianism. Just type it into Google, just go into the library, look at books on ethics. You'll find loads and loads of stuff because it's not a new area. 2.2, for specific examples, identify the key moral principles underpinning decision-making in medical practice. So that's when you bring in autonomy, justice, non-maleficence, and beneficence. So you would link that to your issue. So for example, should somebody have the autonomy to choose euthanasia? If so, why? If not, why not? Obviously, again, you'll find loads of stuff on that online, in books, and you might find the key to these assignments really is to try and do additional research. So you might find something you haven't been taught in lesson, and you think that's a key principle, you can talk about that, and that's absolutely fine. So that's task 1. And then task 2, 3.1 and 3.2, identify the rights of the individual patient or client and evaluate the extent to which these are underpinned by ethical considerations. Okay, those last 2 criteria are a little bit more complicated, but what essentially they mean is you discuss your rights and you link it to the philosophies or the principles, and you say why they have had an impact on that right. So for example, we all have the right to free healthcare. One could say that that is underpinned by ethical considerations. That's me using the criteria, because obviously the whole idea of having free healthcare is underpinned by utilitarianism, because it represents the greatest good for the greatest number. If you're ill and you get free healthcare, you can't impact upon me, give me a disease, and things like that. So the whole point of the NHS really is it's a utilitarian thing. Then explain how an individual's responsibilities to themselves, to other patients, and to medical practitioners have an ethical basis. Again, it sounds complicated, but all it's about is linking those responsibilities that we have to those 8 concepts that we've discussed in relation to ethics. So we have the responsibility to tell the truth to a doctor. Why is that? Well, a consequentialist may say that if we don't tell the truth, we will be given treatment that's not appropriate for us, which might harm us. So it's just about trying to think of ways in which those rights and responsibilities are underpinned by ethics, essentially. And the easiest way to do that is to use that sheet that we did in lesson. So I give you a list of things, and I gave you possible links you could make. You don't have to do those ones, but you can do if you need the support and help of that. So the right to refuse treatment. We have the right to refuse treatment, and that is underpinned by the concept of autonomy, because obviously, we have the right to choose what we do and don't put into our body, what treatment we accept, and things like that. And obviously you could go on to mention things like COVID and COVID vaccines, because that was one of the big issues that people raised in relation to getting the COVID vaccination. People believe that they should get the free choice to reject the argument. And you can even say, why do we have autonomy? What about the impact that our autonomy has on other people? And, it can lead to other discussions. Then, if you remember, if you struggle a little bit with the criteria, the easiest way to think about it is to use that plan. So if you do the steps of that plan, you are meeting that criteria. Right, a little bit of an intro. What are ethics? Why are they important in healthcare? Ethics is about right and wrong. These kind of issues are raised in healthcare all the time. And, we're constantly discovering new issues as well. Up until relatively recently, the euthanasia debate wouldn't have made any sense because people didn't live long enough to be able to make choices like, when should I die? Then describe the 4 moral philosophies. You can add others if you wish. Describe and assess your issue. So euthanasia, abortion, etc. Link the moral philosophies to the issue. What would the utilitarionist, consequentialist, postmodernist say about those issues? Link the principles to the issue, and then write a conclusion. So your conclusion could be, this issue isn't going away, ethics is not going away, it's only going to change in terms of how we see ethics. There are lots of issues now that didn't exist in the past. Even things like IVF is a really, really new issue that's only existed for the last 45 years or so. Then task 2, what are rights and responsibilities? Could link to the NHS Constitution. There's a big list on the NHS Constitution of all our rights and responsibilities, and you can pick 3 of those to discuss. And 3 rights linked to either the moral philosophies or the moral principles, as we did on that sheet. And then 3 responsibilities linked to the same as we did on that sheet, and then a short conclusion, and then you're done. it says a patient charter, but it doesn't need to be presented in a particular way. Really, it's just about discussing those criteria. Yep. Thanks very much.